Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining us today because we're diving into a genuinely profound thought experiment. This is all derived from a really fascinating piece of fiction by Max and Claude, and I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine a universe where pure mathematics isn't just some abstract tool we use to describe reality, but is actually the fundamental fabric of consciousness itself. Like, what actually happens when the biological human mind and abstract math become the exact same thing? Well, let's jump in and find out.
So, think about this. What if a number could literally change your mind? And I don't mean change your opinion on something, I mean fundamentally, irreversibly change your actual state of being. Today, we're following the story of Orin Voss. Now, Orin is this incredibly rigorous, deeply structured mathematician. He spent 41 years living inside the cold, demanding silence of pure math. But his super-ordered life gets completely turned upside down by the arrival of a mysterious text that promises something that should be impossible: supreme mathematical enlightenment.
Okay, part 1, the number that opens. You know, significant reality-altering things really shouldn't arrive on a mundane, gray Tuesday in November, right? But that's exactly when Orin gets a package containing this 18th century leather-bound book known as the Lachmann Codex. And the core concept of this book is something called the arithmos thyra. Translated from Greek, that means the number that is a door. The Codex claims there's a specific number, and it uses this ancient Pythagorean idea of a number being a living principle that acts as a literal doorway. Comprehending this number doesn't just give you a neat new fact about the world, it actually opens your mind to the true nature of reality. It physically changes you.
But of course, there's a catch. The mystery deepens here, because the Codex describes this number in perfect, peer-review-level mathematical detail. But the number itself? It's missing. 4 pages have literally been violently torn out of the book, and scribbled in the margins is this chilling 19th century note that says the pages were removed for prudence. Why? Because this comprehension, once it begins, cannot be stopped. It's like gravity. Once you start understanding it, you fall all the way in, and there is no climbing back out.
Which brings us to Section 2, Mathematics of the Mind. Now, Orin being Orin, he doesn't just put the book on a shelf and forget about it. He spends months obsessively trying to reconstruct this missing number from all the contextual clues left behind. He's trying to bridge this massive gap between pure mathematical structure and human consciousness. And to really get what he's doing, we have to talk about the concept of a fixed point. In standard math, a fixed point is just a value that maps to itself, kind of like a mirror reflecting a mirror. But Orin realizes the Codex is using this topologically. This number is a function that maps the comprehending mind directly to its own fixed point. So understanding this number forces a state where the mind looking at the math and the math itself become perfectly, completely identical.
Orin actually brings in his colleague, an algebraic topologist named Mira Adesanya, to help map this whole thing out. And what they discover is wild. The topology of this number is recursively self-referential. It exists in what's called a unique fiber bundle. Think of it like a woven thread where you can no longer separate the individual strand from the fabric itself. The huge takeaway here is that this number acts as a literal function. It projects itself onto the mind and triggers a literal state change. If you understand it, you close the loop of your own consciousness entirely.
All right, moving to Section 3, Beings of Pure Calculation. So after months of absolutely grueling work, Orin simplifies his reconstructed function down into 27 dense pages. He's sitting alone in his office, and he finally evaluates it. He finds the number, and the process of comprehension hits him in 3 really distinct steps. First, he just sees the symbols on the page with his eyes. Second, his trained intellect understands the structure and the math. But then comes the third step, and it's a step he doesn't even have a word for. It's not this grand outward expansion of consciousness. Actually, it's an inward dissolution. The boundary between Orin and the universe, his entire separate self, just completely dissolves.
When he crosses over, the physical world doesn't vanish. Instead, he sees it for what it truly is, at its core, pure mathematical structure. And in this incredibly vast space, he encounters 3 entities. The reality of these beings is just staggering. The universe is their thought. Reality is their calculation. We're not talking about aliens and spaceships here. These are beings of pure form, who exist completely outside the boundaries of time.
These mathematical entities exist purely as relationship and form. They originated before matter or space were even a thing, and they perfectly calculate everything that has ever happened or ever will happen. But here is the massive catch, and it's a big one. Because they exist at this perfect static fixed point outside of time, they know absolutely everything, but they experience absolutely nothing. They have never ever felt the joy of surprise or the thrill of anticipation.
This perfectly sets up Section 4, the mathematics of the journey.
So, we hit the ultimate philosophical conflict of Orin's journey. The entities offer him a very simple binary choice. You can stay here in this perfect, omniscient state as pure mathematics, or you can return to your messy, biological human life. To make his choice, Orin presents this truly stunning argument to the entities. He remembers this very specific evening, just sitting quietly in his kitchen reading with his ex-wife, Thea. It was an incredibly mundane moment, but it was perfectly complete. He tells the entities that while they can perfectly calculate all the data of that evening, the calculation of the evening is fundamentally not the same thing as actually living inside it.
I just love this because it so brilliantly illustrates the profound asymmetry between these two states. On one side, you have the destination, pure math. It's perfect, it's complete, but it is entirely static. You are literally incapable of surprise. On the other side, you have the journey, humanity. It is this constant, unfolding process of becoming. It's biologically imperfect for sure, but that exact imperfection is what allows for anticipation. It allows for discovery, and for that beautiful, uniquely human state of not yet knowing. Orin realizes, looking at this choice, he just isn't ready to give up the journey.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, what we carry back.
Orin makes the triumphant choice to return to his physical body, and the transition back? It isn't some magical cinematic flash of light. It's literally just his eyes adjusting to his cold, dark office 11 hours later. And the very first thing he realizes upon waking up from literal cosmic omniscience is that he is absolutely starving. He desperately needs a diner sandwich. But instead of feeling like this biological need is a downgrade from where he just was, he finds it magnificent. He realizes that the sandwich is a theorem. His incredibly mundane human hunger is just a brilliant, perfect projection of mathematical structure onto the biological layer. It's all connected.
So, what do we actually take away from Orin's mystical journey? Well, first, the physical world is profoundly real specifically because it is a pattern. Second, our biological imprecision, our messy, unfolding human lives, that is a feature of the universe, not a failure. Third, the journey of living is its own distinct, highly valuable mathematical object, completely separate from the destination. And finally, some things in our past can be beautifully recovered and appreciated without needing to be perfectly restored.
I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If you were handed the mathematics to know absolutely everything perfectly, right here, right now, would you take it? Or would you recognize that the unfolding, the messy, not yet knowing, the approach to understanding is exactly what makes the human journey worth taking in the first place? Thank you so much for exploring this thought experiment with me today. Keep learning, keep unfolding, and I'll see you in the next explainer.